I think we all understand that some people are in wheelchairs because they were born with a disability. Others are in wheelchairs because they've had an accident or they've had an illness that has put them there. Still others may have an illness that makes them weak, or a back injury that puts them in a wheelchair temporarily. But a lot of people in America are in wheelchairs, at least for some period of their lives. And so I wanted to find out what it was like to be in a wheelchair. So this is my wheelchair dilemma. I think the first thing that you notice getting out of my car, if I were to come home in a wheelchair and get out of my car, is the fact that the driveway is on a steep incline. And whether or not I can even traverse this to get to the front door is going to be a challenge. So let me see. And of course it's 95 in the shade here, so let me see how I do. Because I've noticed even tiny inclines are a real challenge in a wheelchair. So, and if I release the brakes and I'm not ready, I'm having a real problem. And here we go. Here we go. And we're going. And we're going. And we're going. It's taking just about every bit of energy. But I tell you what, I'd have much stronger arms if I were in a wheelchair. Here I am. Okay. Can I go? Here I go. And I'm going. Whoops. Just went into the flower bed. Here I am. I am in the flower bed, trying to get around the corner, and of course the tripod, which is adding even more problems to my dilemma. I'm not going anywhere. So I have righted my wheelchair, got it out of the flower bed, and of course the next thing I notice is the fact that someone has left a hose here, because even tiny things seem to make problems for me. I will attempt to move the hose and get up the walkway. And here I go. And I'm going, and I'm going, and I'm going. And of course, here I stop because every door into my house has steps. So if I were actually in a wheelchair, obviously the first thing I'd have to do is have a pretty extensive ramp put on my front door so that I could actually get into my house. This has got to be one of the most wheelchair unfriendly houses ever built. But here I go. I'm in the door. The door, by the way, is wide enough to allow the wheelchair in, but just barely. If I was actually to come in that door, I'd have to be careful of mashed up knuckles, which I find is a predicament that I run into a lot with being in this chair. That and open doorways, like I was just closing the closet. And here is carpeting. A lot of the house is carpeting. I remember when my father was in the wheelchair, they had suggested to my mother that she replace the carpeting with some type of hardwood flooring, or pergo, you know, one of the floor laminate type of things, to make it easier for him. It is a little like, it's not impossible to maneuver, but it's a little like, yeah, it's a little like butter. It's a little like trying to roll through butter. But, you know, that's, that's what I would have to deal with. Here, by the way, is the only bathroom. It's a powder room on the first floor. So if I was on the, it's a two-story on top of everything else, if I were going to use a bathroom on the first floor, this would be it. And I think you're going to find very quickly in this video that for a wheelchair, for a person in a wheelchair, this bathroom is pretty much inaccessible. So here is the bathroom, and it's your typical powder room. It's just this little thin room with a toilet and a sink. I can just, there we go. I can just get in the room. I think you can see that turning around, here's me, here's the toilet, turning around to get to the toilet, because I've got the vanity right there. And here I am wedged right in between the two of them with no way to turn around. This is my kitchen. Tonight we're going to do chili. So I'm going to attempt to make a chili dinner from my wheelchair. I've already got my onions down. They're usually on top of the refrigerator. So, I got the pot down. I think everything else is accessible. We'll see in a minute, won't we? Ugh. It is a very comfortable way to make a dinner, though. I must admit, I don't usually sit. My counters, I think, are pretty normal height, pretty inaccessible from a wheelchair. I'm definitely reaching up here. I usually put those things in there. Oh, for the love of Pete, I can't get the dang skin off. Well, I appreciate you wanting to do things for me. Garlic's going to be one of those things that's a real challenge because I'm used to having the leverage of my height and my weight. Oh. Here are my dishes. Of course, they're uncomfortably over my head as well. Oh, what a mess. This sink is now full of coffee. Just dumped water all over the sink and counter. Covered in food and water. Well, I have to admit, I knew this was going to be hard, but this is even harder than I had anticipated. I have done what would probably take me 5 minutes. It's taken me, God, what, a half an hour now? And I haven't even started the meat browning, let alone open the cans of tomato and beans. And my recipe book is up there. My spices are over there that I need to get to. And I think, honestly, it would probably be 10 o'clock before Karen and I had dinner started, or dinner ready, rather, going at this pace. Unfortunately, all of our living spaces are on the second floor, so we have to come up this staircase. Not only that, but it's kind of a complicated staircase. It has a twist in the middle, and then we have furniture over here, which further blocks the passage up. So anyone in a wheelchair would have to probably go through this nightly ritual of carrying the wheelchair, then carrying the person up, because there really aren't any rooms on the first floor that are living space capable, and because we only have just the small powder room on the first floor, you know, all the shower areas and bathtubs and that type of thing are also on the second floor. And here I am at the doorway of my bedroom. The good news is I can get in the doorway of my bedroom. I've seen some doorways in houses where we couldn't get a wheelchair through. I can. I have a couple of scratched up knuckles, but I am capable of getting in the door to my bedroom and hopefully to the bed. And here I am at my bed. Unfortunately, it's taller than the average bed. I think probably the only bed that would be low enough for me to get into would be my son's bed. And I think he'd probably have a problem with me sleeping in his bed. So this would be my alternative. And of course, there's always the impediments of daily life that get in the way. I think in order for me to use this bed, I would probably have to cut the legs off so that it was low enough to transfer into. Without the use of my legs, there's no way I could get into it. If I had limited mobility, yes, I could probably push myself up and then get into my bed. But if I don't have use of my legs, this bed I think is off limits. This is the entrance to my bathroom. Once again, the good news is I can get in the door. And I think it's a large enough, wide enough room that I can angle over and actually use the sink to wash my hands or wash my face, although I'd probably have water everywhere if I tried to wash my face. The countertops are lower. I can feel that already. I'm not doing this upward bound thing with my arms, so it's definitely a much more comfortable height. I think if I wanted to use this area long term, though, I'd probably want to cut this area out so that I could get my wheelchair, you know, angled in there and sit under the sink, so I wasn't doing the sideways bend all the time. Being a mother, it would be important for me to have mobility so that I could get in to my son's room and take care of him. How you doing, son? And I can do that. And maybe even get his clothes out for him. Oh. Carrie, do you need a pair of socks?
Yes. You throw it back in?
There we go.
By the way, it's Kieran.
By the way, it's Kieran. Of course, life isn't just about the things that we have to do, like getting into a bathroom or making dinner. It's also about the things that we want to do, like spending time with our family, or for me, going out in the back porch so that I can enjoy the pool with my son and the garden. So, despite this little lip, I can actually get out onto the porch. Might have spoken too soon. And that would be a big plus for me. However, I wouldn't be able to get off the porch because there's 3 steps down to the ground level. So unless, again, someone carried me and the chair, I wouldn't be able to do much but sit up here and then kind of enjoy life vicariously. So this little experiment is done, and I'm very glad it is, because I think I've proven to myself that without some major renovations to this house, being in a wheelchair would be well, it wouldn't be doable. The steps leading in and out of my house on all 3 doors, the fact that the bedrooms are upstairs and the beds are too high, the fact that the countertops in the kitchen are so high, making even simple chopping almost impossible, proves to me that I really don't want to be in a wheelchair ever, if possible. But just how many people are in wheelchairs? Well, one website I found had these statistics to share. They said that 3 million people in the USA are in wheelchairs and 5 million people in Western Europe are in wheelchairs, which breaks down to about 1 in 100 people being in a wheelchair. Now, if you go out to a public place like a mall or a concert, you're probably not going to see 1 in 100 people in wheelchairs. And you're probably wondering, therefore, if the statistic is correct. But the website said that despite the fact that the statistic is correct, you're not going to see that many people in wheelchairs simply because they don't tend to go out in public very often. Despite modern building codes, making bathroom stalls larger, straightening out hallways, adding electronic doors that open for you, despite all these things, it's still very difficult to get around in a wheelchair. The smallest things like a broken sidewalk or even a garden hose or a slight incline can be almost inaccessible to someone in a wheelchair, let alone buildings that have steps and not an elevator. So, despite the fact that 1 in 100 people are in wheelchairs, you're not going to see them that often because they tend to be, well, homebound, stuck in the environments that they can get around in, and not out in public, which I think would feel very much like a jail sentence. For me, I'm very glad that this experiment is over and I can return this thing tomorrow. And I just really hope that I never end up in one.